Hello, Mark.
Hi.
Thank you for accepting my invitation for an interview. I found you at the Joint Met Meetings 2020 at Denver, and now we're at a random hotel room of True Hotels by Hilton.
With a thermostat.
That's true. They were so nice to us and gave us this room for 15 minutes.
That's right. For free.
That is true for now. For now. If I stay here, I'm sure they would charge me. But I have a room upstairs, so that's all right. So in this interview series, I just want to get your opinion on things that you do, things that you think a mathematician should do, and anything about mathematics, basically. It's just me giving advice. It's just anything that can be useful to anyone that is interested in mathematics, as a grad student, as a professional, no matter who it would be. And I don't want to take so much of your time, so I will put a 15-minute timer, and we will have just a chat. And once the 15-minute timer goes off, we will presently wrap up the conversation. Does it sound good for you?
Sounds great.
Great, thank you. So I will just start the conversation. And I always start by asking, what is a mathematician in your definition? Who do you think is a mathematician? If I can start with that.
Well, when I tell people who know nothing about mathematics and they say, what is mathematics? I think of it as the study of patterns in a very organized, logical way. And maybe as mathematicians, we don't think of it like that. But when you boil it down, what are the products of a mathematician? Well, a mathematician is producing mostly theorems. Sometimes they call them
lemmas
or corollaries or propositions.
Sure.
But they are mathematical statements where you say, under a certain list of conditions, then the following holds. And basically you're saying is if we have certain patterns, then if we have certain restrictions, we will have certain patterns come out.
Yeah, that will always be the outcome.
Right.
That is the essential outcome of these, not necessarily the only outcome, but this
Right.
is one thing that we can prove.
And of course, we have questions we cannot resolve, and we call those conjectures. Sometimes we produce algorithms for how to solve a problem. But in the end, it's these statements about patterns. That's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, when it comes to algorithms, it's also an overlapping subject with engineering too, right?
Mhm.
Especially computer
And
engineering.
computer science. Right?
Exactly. So when do you think that transition happens? Do you think that there is any transitioning between a computer scientist and a mathematician in an academic level, or do you think that they're pretty much doing the same type of research, only in different departments?
I think it's very similar. I think some computer scientists and some mathematicians would take great exception to that. But in the end, they are really producing, again, results having to do with patterns. Now, there's the question of rigor, of course. There's the question of, is this something geared more towards an application versus a nice pure theoretical result which has been stripped down to its most basic fundamental level? So, there are certain questions like that, but I think in the end, they are pretty similar.
That's why I wanted to ask, because what I have found out by looking at some computer science research is that they seem to be doing math. They're proving things, maybe the rigor is a little bit shaky, but they seem to be proving things. The only difference that I have seen is usually the motivation. And in that sense, mathematics research, as I have learned how to do it, is more as in mathematics, you do it for the mathematics sake, and you just create the library. And in computer science, is that we had this problem, we found a partial solution to this, or something like that. I mean, that is my opinion.
Of course, there are parts of computer science which are very theoretical and aren't going to get too close to any real applications. Of course, tons of pure math is like that. Even a lot of so-called applied math is really still really theoretical, and you're still not going to get too close to an application. So it's mixed all over the place.
Yeah. And when it comes to mathematics, so being a mathematician also has the part of education, right? That you need to be just preparing the next generation, especially in the university level, of the students to their fields. Do you think that it's just teaching them logic, or do you think that mathematics gives them more? what do you think mathematics courses add to these university students?
Well, I think college and university students, I think they're getting more than just logic. One thing I try to emphasize in my courses is taking some tools you might learn in one area and see how you can repurpose it and apply it somewhere else. I see that in my research all the time, and I think learning some good general techniques and approaches and having an eye where you're not just down in the weeds in your little narrow specialty, but you're developing general tools, and you're open to the idea of, I can borrow tools from some other area to help in a particular domain I'm interested in, or vice versa. Maybe I can use some of the tools I've applied here and use it in some other area. And I think this idea of making connections is really important, and it's not emphasized enough. So we have our standard courses and we do ABC, but I think we need to learn to reach out. And as any researcher will tell you, if you want to do something novel in your area rather than adding some epsilon to some existing theorem, if you want to do something novel, often you need some new idea.
Sure.
If you're going to do a new idea, you need to be open to what people are doing in other areas.
That's exactly where I wanted to segue to, actually, because to understand mathematics, or for students to take in some mathematics, they need to be open too. So how do you get to them? What are ways you would say that is a way of connecting with them?
Well, I need to see examples of that in action, and so even if I'm teaching a first-year calculus course, I will try to pull out examples where it's not apparent at all, like some quasi-applications where you would not, the tools there would not be immediately obvious. For example, in finding roots of functions using Newton's method. So Newton's, when you think of finding zeros, this apparently has nothing to do with calculus. But Newton's method is this very strong, it's actually a very effective way of finding zeros. And you wouldn't guess offhand that using calculus for finding zeros would be helpful. So I try to emphasize when it happens like that in the courses. If I don't even manufacture it, I will say, here, and I will emphasize, here where we're taking this tool which was originally developed like for astronomy or for basic mechanics, and now we're going to apply it to something completely different. And the students will appreciate that if we say it and if we emphasize it.
You're completely right. I'm actually blown away by that answer. Yeah, you're completely right that you're making this connection and making it visible to them. And I mean, I knew that Newton's method was for astrology, but astronomy, but I'm guilty of this, that I didn't make it visible to my students. I basically said that they can try to guess stock prices with that even, if they want to, or especially Lagrange interpolation. When I was teaching business calculus, I wanted to add that, so that I can ask, what is the next price do you think? Do you think what is the next price going to be?
Cool.
And they said, well, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe the historical context is also there, and it should be. And yeah, so I want to directly go to your outreach in that sense, because you're actually putting them out there, not only in your classroom, but also on the internet too, right? So you're doing the Tipping Point Math, the YouTube channel. And how did that started? How did you choose to start and make some videos about?
So a number of years ago, I came to the conclusion that mathematicians are good at developing new math, sometimes expounding on it to the club of mathematicians, but they're not good at reaching out. They're not good at showing people who don't know much why math might be interesting. And I've tried to do this in several aspects. I've made some math art. I wrote a book with Princeton in 2015. It's called Single Digits.
Is it? Oh, you were writing a new book.
I'm working on a different book right now. Yes,
Sure.
okay, about the number pi.
Is it out yet?
I'm working on it.
Alright.
I'm writing as we speak.
Okay.
But the channel, I realized, you know, especially a lot of young people watch YouTube videos. I have 3 children who are all kind of university age, and they all watch videos all the time. And I thought, this is a great way to reach out. I knew somebody who had started a physics channel, which is very successful, highly subscribed. And I thought, you know,
Which channel would that be?
it's called Minute Physics.
Oh, I know the
Okay,
channel.
so I know the person. He was a student of mine at Grinnell who started this.
Wow.
Yeah, and so yeah, he's got millions of subscribers to his channel now. It's a full-time thing he does now, but it started off as something part-time, and it grew. So I wanted to do something to reach out. I was always, you know, I was a bit inhibited. I had this idea for a year or 2, and I didn't do anything with it because I thought, I don't know technically how to do any of this stuff. And then I learned a little bit, and I realized I can do this. And so now I will say that most people think that the technical aspects is the hardest part of putting together videos. Once you learn some basic stuff, it's not that hard. I mean, there's a number of things that need to be done. I think the hardest part, the part that needs the most careful attention, is choosing a good topic and writing a good script. And so I would make a lot of time into developing this well, because I know in YouTube, if somebody's watching something and it gets boring or it gets too hard, they just turn it off and they go do another video.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you have to choose something that's going to be broadly appealing.
And I need to compliment you on that. I also want to ask you if you question your children over your videos, but first off, I want to compliment you on the script that you choose, your animations, and it definitely feels that it's incredibly professional, and you thought about that for a really long time before you actually sit down and record your video and put together the animation.
So I would say that I'm my target audience for my video. I mean, I know that there are math undergrads and higher who watch some of these videos. That's great, but I'm trying to reach out to people who have very little math training. Maybe they're a first-year student in college or university. Maybe they're a high school student, or possibly even younger. So I don't want to be assuming a whole bunch of math background. And so you asked me what my children might think about it. I've actually bounced idea, I will make a near finished product and I will show it to them, or something even earlier on, and I'll say, what do you think about this? And the good thing is, at least when I was doing this with them, almost none of them had too much math, because if you have too much math, then you're going to know too much. That's not what I want. Because I want to reach out to people who don't know much math. And the other thing that was good with showing them is they were mercilessly honest with me. Okay, so they would feel completely uninhibited telling me that sucks, or this doesn't work, or you should change this. But I would be, and if they said, oh, I think that's good, or I think that works, then I knew they were being completely honest with me there as well, and not just, you know, flattering me, and that would be the end of the road.
That is definitely true, but at the very least, YouTube comments would also show if that was just flattery or not.
Right, that's right.
But I particularly liked your video about the slicing a pizza.
Oh yeah.
For two people,
right.
How fairly you can do it and everything. And I mean, that would be a basic challenge for your children. You can just directly give them some pizzas.
Right.
And just
Right.
Make sure that we get fairly.
Right.
Yeah.
No, the pizza theorem is a beautiful result, and anybody can understand it.
It's so simple.
You don't need to get technical, and I offer a kind of a quasi-proof in the video that has to do with a certain dissection of the circle in various ways. And you know, how somebody came up with that is another question, but the point is, you can convince yourself, yeah, this makes sense. And you're good, okay? So people can appreciate a beautiful result without getting to anything technical and so on, and we have fun along the way.
Maybe I should just move away from mathematics for a second and ask you how you picked your target audience. So for your Tipping Point Maths YouTube channel, which, as I said in the meeting hall, it tipped me over to doing interviews for sure. that I saw you in Linz, we talked about
Yeah.
different formats.
Mhm.
I watched a couple of videos and I said I need to do interviews. And I started doing interviews thanks to you.
That's great.
Yeah. So how did you pick your target audience?
Or pick the
For-
target audience.
Yeah, for your videos, how did
Oh.
you pick your target audience? Because for me, it is
Mm.
clear that the target audience is someone that might be interested in
Okay.
getting a professional
Okay.
level education in mathematics, or that someone that might want to do mathematics or whatever that it would mean to them professionally.
Yeah, I just felt this is, I think there are plenty of mathematicians who speak to other mathematicians. I mean, we do that at conferences, we do that in our writings and so on like that. But I just felt, you know, especially if we want to attract more people into our profession, we can make it fun. And I mean, when people think about science being popularized, you can find books like on physics or videos on physics, or maybe some fun chemistry where they have chemicals overflowing out of a test tube.
Wow, that is 50 minutes.
Yeah.
That goes by so fast,
It
so
does.
quickly.
Yeah.
But
So
interesting.
I'll just finish up, and so, or in biology, you know, you can talk about Darwinianism and so on. There's lots of ways to make stuff accessible, but in math, we haven't been good at doing that.
That's
And-
certainly true.
And I thought, I want to do something that reaches out. I think we can attract more people. Now, these videos take a lot of effort, and maybe I need to change the style in which I do
You see,
it.
mine takes is minimum effort as it can take.
Which is fantastic. It means you can pump stuff out really quickly.
I just need to find the people
Right.
that are willing to talk, have a
Sure.
conversation with me. Because my issue would be that people are actually quite shy in
Okay.
mathematics.
Okay.
Like it attracts a group of people.
It's a mix.
They,
Not
exactly.
not everybody's.
Not everybody,
not-
yeah, of course.
I mean, there's the stereotypical mathematician who just has, usually it's a him, it's his head buried in a book and just wants to work out stuff and is antisocial and so on. But we both know plenty of mathematicians who are very sociable and
Definitely.
easy to talk to, but yeah, sitting down for an interview takes a little more.
Yeah. You know, honestly, those bookworms are not even the 10%.
Mhm.
I mean,
Right.
right?
Right.
But maybe I'm shy to actually just approach people and say,
Not
"Would
if you're
you-"
doing this.
I'm just approaching and
Yeah.
saying, would you give me an interview?
Mhm.
That's why I started with people actually that I'm comfortable chatting with.
Mhm.
But yeah, with that, I actually want to thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for this great chat.
Happy to talk.
Yeah, perfect.